Welcome to the Tradar, a Traitors podcast. I'm Matthew, a writer and 100% Traitors superfan working in TV development. The Tradar features deep dives into every episode of English-speaking versions of the show, as well as interviews with contestants and special bonus episodes. This season of the podcast is dedicated to the Traitors US Season 3. Today we're looking at episode 10 of the show. And to help me today is a huge surprise. Last episode, we ended on an unbelievable cliffhanger. You're going to be shocked when you see who is joining me as my co-host today. Whoa! No! No, not you. It's
What a
David Bloomberg.
surprise! This
David,
is
what a surprise to see you.
it is just as shocking as that cliffhanger was at the beginning of the episode. Yes.
Yes, we will get to the cliffhanger slash not really a cliffhanger very soon. Uh, before we get into it, of course, we're gonna David, introduce yourself for the people who are shocked to see
Who
you
are
and have no idea who
truly
you are.
shocked to see me here. Yes. Yes, I am. I have been covering reality TV for over 24 years, pretty much anywhere anyone will listen, read, or watch. I post reality TV videos on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram as at David Bloomberg TV. And I talk quite a bit about the topic on Blue Sky. So, and of course, I've been here all season,
Yes,
which makes
and
it such a big surprise that I'm here now.
exactly. As always, before we get into the episode, we're going to set up our podcast game, The Trader Traitor. The mission for David and I from here on in is to tell a little lie to one another, or a big lie. It has to be a fabrication, a made up fact about the traitors or ourselves or anything at all. For example, I could lie and, this wouldn't be a lie to David, it would be a lie to the listeners that David had previously kicked me off of another podcast, so this time we made an alliance to stick this one out to the end. However, I couldn't lie by saying I was unshocked, and I was not shocked at any moment during this episode, when the truth is, I was genuinely shocked several times. That would be a fake opinion. So, we're looking for fake facts in our game rather than fake thoughts, feelings, and opinions. At the end of the episode, we will guess each other's lie, and listeners, you join in too and see how good you are at traitor detecting. David, again, are you ready to betray me?
Always.
Excellent. Me too. Our game begins now. And just before we get into episode 9, or sorry, 10, I should say. That wasn't my lie. That was a mistake. Episode 10.
I
Uh,
mean, last time your lie was you saying it wasn't a lie. So,
no, I promise. I promise. It's just numbers. Numbers don't count.
do you
Uh,
swear on your grandchildren?
yeah, I swear on my non-existent grandchildren. Uh, Episode 9, any sort of thoughts before we jump ahead? Anything that we want to talk about from listeners?
Well, I mean, there's the fact that both you and I watched the show and somehow missed Allan at the end saying there will also be a murder.
Yes.
Um, and so we were like, yeah, there's probably no murder. And then immediately a bunch of people were like, yeah, there's going to be. And, I mean, we weren't the only ones. There was a lot of people online who missed it too, but we should have
Yeah,
caught it.
yeah. As soon as I was corrected on YouTube by our
Hmm.
listeners, which is a good thing,
Yes,
I
thank
went
you.
back.
We
Yes, thanks.
appreciate it.
People like, there is a murder, you know. So, yeah, went back. Alan says to Danielle, well, he phrases it strangely. He says, "You may murder after you've recruited." So I think every time there's an ultimatum, they always need to get rid of someone somehow. So it's either the person says no, I don't want to be recruited, and they get murdered, or they say yes, and then they go off and they decide who to get rid of. So I think that kind of always happens, almost always.
Yeah, I don't remember the the situation. I thought it was more of a numbers game that, depending on what has
Yeah,
happened up till that point,
yeah,
how the numbers all add up.
yeah.
Um,
So I mean, I guess we're laughing at the non-cliffhanger, but I guess we still had to wait and find out who was going to be murdered.
right, right. But as far as the, you know, the shocking reveal, Britney couldn't even pretend to be surprised. She just laughed.
Yeah, she just
Uh,
exactly.
and then I actually had someone tell me in TikTok comments or maybe YouTube comments that they were sure Brittany would turn down Daniel's ultimatum.
Yeah,
And
I had one or two of those as well, which I was
yeah,
very surprised at.
and I was like, I, I couldn't say what I wanted to say because it would probably have offended them, but it was just like, what? What are you smoking that makes you think that she would do that? She's here to play the game. She's here for the money. Yeah, it made no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, and
Especially since the person who said it was absolutely certain. Like when I
yeah,
explained, no, that's not going to happen. Here's why. They're like, oh yes, she will. You'll see.
yeah, strange. We'll see if maybe they'll come back to you and apologize because people apologize all the time on social media.
Mm.
So, lots of
So let me
other.
just say, if I had known that there was a murder, I would have predicted Gabby. And
Ah,
once we did determine that in a couple of my short videos that I posted, I indicated that I thought it would be Gabby. So
okay. I thought it would be Ivar,
mm,
and I mean, we'll get to it in a few minutes, but that's who I thought was going. So
okay,
it was one of my many shocks in this episode.
yeah, the reason that I thought it would be Gabby was because Gabby was telling Britney, I think that was traitor on traitor.
Yeah, yeah,
Last episode. I mean, she did, as we'll get to, she does it this episode too. But last episode, she was doing it. And I was like, well, certainly Brittany's going to run that information right back to Danielle.
yeah.
Sort of.
So, yeah. Again, YouTube is a flurry with so many comments. Thanks everybody for leaving all your thoughts and suggestions. It's great to see all the interactivity. Head over to YouTube, see what everybody thinks of the episodes. There's lots to get involved in. I can't comment on all of it here, but it's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're ready to go ahead. Penultimate episode, apart from the reunion, episode 10. Here we go. We start off with our recap. We've got, Carolyn and Danielle in the last episode went head to head in the turret first and then at the round table. Dylan had begun the day with suspicions of Danielle, but ended up being the deciding vote at the banishment and sent Carolyn home, resulting in a wild reaction from Danielle, which, in part, as you said, David, led Gabby to think maybe they just witnessed some tracer on tracer fighting. And at the end of the episode, Danielle is forced into the ultimatum. Of course, she chooses Brittany. Of course, Brittany is bound to accept. So we begin again at the dungeon. Brittany arrives to a hooded Danielle, who reveals herself in the least surprising unveiling ever. And yeah, Brittany just sort of laughs. She's like, "Oh yeah, of course it's you." And Danielle delivers her ultimatum. She says, "It would not be right unless I finish the game with you. Do you accept?" She says, "Of course I accept." Yep. Uh, and this is where I made a note that I also had a couple of people messaging saying, I think Brittany might not. I mean, I've seen in one other version of the Tracers, one
Yeah.
person one time refusing. I think that was earlier in the game where I still think it was wild thing to do, but that player kind of knew they were never going to win anyway. Brittany, is it this near the end? Like, she's not going to give up now. Like, she's almost there. She's in a great position. The person that's recruiting her isn't recruiting her to just throw her under the bus. So,
Right.
this is a great opportunity.
Oh,
So
yeah.
she's not going to say no. Uh, Brittany, again, she says in her interview, I've been a little suspicious of Danielle. And I don't know. I'm like, were you a little bit suspicious? Were you a lot suspicious? I have no idea what to believe in these confessionals anymore. And she feels re-energized and she wants to win with Danielle. Off we go to the turret then, and Brittany asks Danielle, what's it been like? And Danielle just sort of criticizes Carolyn. Maybe she talked about Rob as well and Bob the drag queen, but we just get her talking about Carolyn. She says it
Mm-hmm.
was a nightmare. Carolyn would never make decisions about anything. I don't think that's completely true. I think I think they just
No,
didn't listen to Carolyn.
yeah, I think it's true from Danielle's perspective, but Danielle, as many people do, conveniently doesn't list all the times that she said no to people
Yeah,
the same way that Carolyn did.
yeah,
Um, I mean, the two of them clearly were not getting along. So obviously, Danielle is going to give her version of events. She's
yeah. Um, the Danielle, they talk before they talk about murders, they sort of talk about who they want to keep around. So Danielle
Hmm.
says, at this moment, we have Dylan for sure, meaning, I assume, we have him on side.
Yeah.
And even here, I thought, no, you don't. Like, he
See, but she
almost
doesn't
voted for
know
you.
that. But she doesn't know that. I was just talking to another friend of mine on Blue Sky who also said she thought that Danielle and Brittany would murder Dylan.
Mm.
And I said, no, because Dylan has kept his thoughts to himself. Whenever he's
Yes, and
talking,
he says this later
right,
as well, yeah.
right. Whenever he's talking to Danielle, he's 100% on her side. And he voted for Carolyn. He stuck
Well, sure.
by Danielle.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think as far as she's concerned, he's in her pocket as much as Dolores is.
yeah. Uh, I wonder. Well, we'll see where the episode goes. I wonder. Dylan is. I said it last time. Dylan is a kind of key player. I think he's going to determine an awful lot of what happens. Uh, unless he's the next one murdered, but we'll see. So,
Yeah.
they also think that they've got Dolores on their side, so that's good. And yeah, Brittany agrees. Dylan and Dolores need to be protected. So murder then. It either is going to have to be Ivar, Gabby, or Tom. They talk about Ivar. They say that he's smart. He's kind of suspicious of Danielle. He's the least obvious connection to them. And Brittany does say
He's
Gabby and Tom
Columbo.
are. He's Columbo. Uh, Brittany says Gabby and Tom are onto you, but then she says, but Tom is a more eligible option for the group to banish than Gabby is, meaning maybe we should keep him around because it'd be easier to turn votes on
Yeah.
him. Which so, and then anyway, we'll get to what happens, but
I mean, there's so much going on here. So first of all, something we should remember for later is, oh no, wait, sorry, that happens at breakfast. So but I thought one of them was saying it, but it's someone else. It's about Ivar.
mm,
Because they talk about him being a faithful, an obvious faithful. But as far as, yeah, they Brittany's like, well, Gabby and Tom are on to you. And I'm like, no, I was watching that scene, and I know we don't see the whole thing, but Gabby was leading the charge, and Tom was going,
oh yeah,
oh,
maybe like he was kind of
oh,
considering it. Yeah,
yeah. This was not Tom out front from what we saw.
yeah. Unless it was the conversation went on and eventually Tom really was like, yeah, you're right, oh my god, I can't believe I've not seen it.
Then why not
Maybe,
show that? So it
well,
makes more
yeah,
sense?
yeah.
Um,
uh so they also Brittany says this one thing that I wasn't sure of. She says if we kill Gabby, Tom may keep going after Dolores.
right.
And I
That's a good thing.
yeah, so I just I don't really understand why they did what
This
they did.
is this is also why, as we head to breakfast, I am very surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, they make their decision. Oh, by the way, I would like to point out here, I am almost certain, until Roundtable, Danielle thinks that Ivar's name is Ivar without an R. Like, I'm so sure she keeps calling him Ivar. And
I
it's not her accent. It's a weird
I think
thing
she's
that
trying to imitate his accent. Like when he says Iva, I think that she
Ivar.
believes that's how it's pronounced.
Hmm. I guess it does sound a bit like that in his accent. Ivar.
It's kind of like
Okay,
I was
okay.
I was doing a podcast on Australian Survivor, and there's a woman named Karen. Now I would say it Karen,
Yeah.
but they pronounce it Karen. So I had to like make sure I was pronouncing it the right way for in Australia. I mean, that's her name. It should
Yeah.
be, it's kind of like, I don't know if you ever watched Star Trek Next Generation, but
Ish.
okay, there's a character who is an android named Data.
Yeah.
And at one point, there is some admiral who's a dick who starts calling him Data.
Yeah.
And Data's like, no, that is not correct. And he's like, what's the difference? It's the same word. And he's like, well, Data is my name. Data is not. And so, yeah, it may look the same, but I just think she's trying to pronounce it the British way the best that she can and not quite accomplishing the goal.
Yeah. It's like any Scottish people listening will know that Scottish people have this issue with the name, well, that's spelled Carl, like the man's name. Because to us, it sounds exactly the same as the woman's name, Carol. Carol and Carol are pronounced identically in Scottish accent. Carl. So thank goodness there's no one called that in this season.
Or
Uh,
worse, two people, a Carl and a Carol.
yeah. Yeah,
Well,
we've
that must have
never.
been terrible if any Scottish people were podcasting about The Walking Dead.
Oh yeah, Carl, yeah. Of course.
You had Carl and Carol.
So anyway, I just laughed at them calling him Ivar. So they make the decision. I predicted it was going to be Ivar with an R because I thought no one's ever. I naively thought no one's ever going to banish him. So this is your chance to get him out. And I thought at least Tom and Gabby are kind of create a bit of drama. Like they could
Right.
possibly have suspicion on them. I thought foolishly, naively thought that everyone saw Ivar as a faithful. Little did I know.
Yeah, I
Uh,
just thought, like I said, it would be Gabby for the reason that I mentioned. She's coming after Danielle. She made that very clear.
yeah,
And so, and Tom is out in Tom land, and who knows what he's going to do, but he's not coming after one of them.
yeah. So we finish with Danielle being really happy. Finally, she feels like she's strategizing, and she hasn't had the chance to do this in the game. Uh, as for we get to breakfast. It's Dylan and Danielle first. Danielle is it feels like quite obviously telling Dylan he's her person no matter what. I just
Hmm.
think it's a little bit over the top, and I think probably Dylan does pick up on it being too much. Um, he says in his confessional, he's sort of on the fence. He says, I need to move on. I kind of hope Danielle's a faithful, but he's not banking on it. He's going to be suspicious of everyone, which is wise. And he says to Danielle, we have to find two people we trust the most and who we want to finish with. And they both agree that Gabby is not that person. They don't,
Yeah.
and neither of them feel they can trust her. Obviously, Danielle is pretending. Brittany and Dolores arrive
On the other
next.
hand, she's sort of not pretending because she knows she can't trust her.
Well,
So,
well,
you
that's true.
know,
Brittany and Dolores arrive. Danielle's very excited. They talk about the mission yesterday. And Dolores says the only thing she's thinking about is that Tom was a traitor.
yes.
And I went, huh? She says that person would stab you in the back in a heartbeat. I mean, this is great news for Danielle and Brittany. So
Right.
they're like, ideal. Okay, let's, yeah, you you have your eyes anywhere but us. Okay. And Dolores also is calling Ivar Ivar while looking at his portrait, I would just like to say.
Yeah. See,
Uh,
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying they're trying to like pronounce it the way, but then meanwhile, later when, spoiler alert, when Brittany votes for him, she doesn't spell it like Ivah. She spells it Iver. So
yeah.
it's not even an A there at that point. And then I know we'll get to it. She says, fittingly, I misspelled your name. I have no idea why she says that unless he's been misspelling people's names the whole time. But anyway, it's jumping way ahead. I apologize.
Yeah, I'm not sure what she meant, but yeah, we'll get there. We've got Dylan. He predicts that Ivar, with an R, won't come back because he's the most faithful of the faithfuls. You said this. And Gabby arrives wearing an outfit that she can't lift her arms in. Gabby says in her interview she still thinks Danielle's a traitor because it was clear she had inside info on Carolyn last night. She even
Mhm.
says at the table in front of everybody at breakfast, I think she says sort of generally, we've been watching Traitors on Traitors. Cut to Danielle laughing way too hard at this, trying to
Yeah.
appear as natural and happy as possible. The door knocks, and
Well,
then,
before, okay, I do want to get back to what Dylan said about Iva being the most faithful of the faithful. They're
mm,
talking about that in the morning, and then there he becomes the target by the night. It's
yeah,
like, how, what? So, but I think this is important that Dylan does believe this at this
mm,
moment in time
yeah,
and will continue to.
yeah. Uh, the door knocks. It's going to be our final person, and in walks Ivar. So I was really surprised that Tom was gone.
I mean,
Um,
I was surprised when Gabby walked in and not just in her outfit. which
Yeah.
which by the way, she was cold the entire day. Like every part of the day, she was walking into rooms. She was like, I've got to go sit by the fire. I've got to go be by it where it's warm. She kept saying it. Yeah, that's because she was wearing like three pieces of cloth, you know? I mean,
And it's Scotland. Even Alan makes a joke about the
yeah,
Scottish summer.
yes.
We get our flashback. The traitors decide Tom is he's on to Danielle, and they'll work on banishing Gabby next rather than just murdering her. We see Tom get his letter, and of course he says he was expecting this because he was the most threatening of the guys.
Yes, yes.
And he says he didn't realize he'd be so good at the game. And I thought, well, you were good a couple of times. You still thought Dolores was a traitor. Like you weren't that good.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I'm
mean, that I want to, I'm interested to see his reaction
yes
video.
to finding out. Yeah, yeah,
How honest he is, and if he just opens, oh yeah, I knew that. I
yeah.
knew that. But you know, even again, this is jumping ahead, but I said it before, getting rid of Tom was ridiculous. If they had kept him, it would have been so much easier to keep Dolores in line when we eventually get to that point.
Yeah,
Because Dolores was fixated on him. And
yeah,
he might have been stupidly fixated on her, and they could have avoided the way the whole episode ends.
yeah. Yeah. There must be something else going on that's led them to this decision. I wonder if other Gabby's. I mean, I'm jumping ahead. Gabby gets so much heat this episode. By the end, we realize actually Gabby isn't going to be banished. But
Right.
I was so surprised at how easily people seem to turn to Gabby. But then it made me think maybe she has had suspicions on her, and we just haven't seen much of
I,
it.
yeah, I mean, Dylan said, well, I've never trusted her since day one.
Yeah.
And it's
So
like, Brittany brings up later, stuff that goes all the way back to day one also. And so apparently there's been something simmering under
yeah,
that, we just don't hear about because it's not the main storyline of the day.
yeah. So I think their decision to keep Gabby is purely based on the idea that they feel confident enough that they can just get her banished next.
Yeah, I
And of
just think
course
it
it
was.
goes awry.
Yeah, I mean, and I had typed on my live posting. Anyone who wants to go back to Blue Sky and look at the timestamp, I said at the time getting rid of Tom was ridiculous, and that the reasons why. And it turned out, I mean, didn't turn out exactly the way we expected, but it turned
Mhm.
out I was right in terms of the way the votes got messed up, and it would have
Yeah,
just been so much easier to target Tom for banishment.
yeah. We cut back to breakfast. The only thing I've got here is Dylan saying he thinks Carolyn. Now they know Carolyn is a traitor. He thinks
Right.
Carolyn had been keeping Tom in the game,
Yeah.
and now that's why he's gone. I don't. I mean, that's not really. I don't think that's true because I don't
I,
think
I
Carolyn ever
don't
had any
either.
sway.
I don't either. But I also wonder in retrospect, because later on as I was watching, I got mad at him for him saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And I'm sitting here going, it is obvious that Danielle has kept you in this game.
Mm.
And then I remembered when he said this. And I'm wondering if he was saying it because Danielle was sitting next to him and he didn't want Danielle to have a suspicion that he knew why he was being kept in the game.
Yeah, yeah. I that makes sense. I think. Yeah. Alan arrives then in, may I say, his most insane outfit yet. I, I mean, I, I'm, I, I'm speechless. It's a bit, it's not for me. I don't care about gender norms and conventions, by the way. Like, I'll watch Drag Race. Alan can wear what he wants. I just don't think it looks that great. I just think he looks nuts. So, that's but what do I know? Hey, I'm wearing a brown t-shirt and a green cape. So,
I mean,
uh,
maybe next week he'll come in Gabby's outfit.
oh, that would be excellent. I would really appreciate that. That would be fantastic. Without being able to move his arms, he
Yeah.
won't be able to throw the pouches in the fire pit. Um, so, yes, he makes his jokes about Tom being toast, and he says, "Ah, Tom, for once you were actually faithful." That made me
Yes.
chuckle.
Best one. Best line. Best line of Of the picture portrait throwing. Yes.
Yeah. He says that this is the last round table where a player's identity will be revealed when they're banished, and he hints again at the seer. Dolores, who I think truly has no clue what is going on at any
No.
time, just goes, "What do you mean?" And then he says that he just had deja vu. That's his little clue about the
Yeah.
mission. Even I actually was kind of I couldn't think what the mission was going to be. I thought, are returning players coming back? Is it a memory observation game? Which okay, it is. Part of it is a memory game. Yeah,
Yeah.
most of it isn't though.
Right. Yeah. I think it was bringing back the some of the previous things
Oh, and
was
the
all he was
clowns.
talking
We've
about.
because we've
Yes.
had the clowns before,
Right.
kind of. So
Right.
yeah. Dylan guesses, yeah, it probably will be a memory-based game, and Ivar says he doesn't even know everyone's name. So
Yeah. Let
great.
alone anything else. And so, okay, here's my question. British royal inbreeding or Columbo tactics? I don't know which is happening here.
I think British Royal has never had to worry about remembering people's names who don't
Well,
matter that much. That that's what I'm going for.
that's a good point.
Nameless servants' names don't matter.
Yes.
So they they have a bit of speculation about what the secret power is going to be. From the previous episode, I think Dylan kind of knows what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And Brittany, who obviously watches the show, says, well, so far in Traitors, we've not had something like this, so she doesn't seem too sure either. Off we spread around the castle. We've got different conversations in different rooms. In the kitchen, Gabby and Danielle are talking. Gabby thinks that I mean, she's pretending to think that Tom's murder was to, caused confusion. It was just to cause a bit of chaos. And Danielle just sort of vaguely going, yes, I'm just gathering info. And Gabby says, totally. And they vaguely talk for a few minutes, saying absolutely nothing. Um, Danielle says in her confessional, her mission today is to get eyes on Gabby. Cut to her talking to Dolores. She tells her she's not going to put her name down. She's not going to put Dylan's name down. And she says, maybe the traitor is the cute person you least suspect. And I thought, and Dolores, I mean, I don't know what to say about Dolores. She sort of implies, oh,
Well,
no, no,
I
no.
have plenty to say about Dolores as this episode goes on.
Oh, I mean, I will at Roundtable.
Yeah.
She implies she has suspected Gabby, but she's going to wait until tonight to pick the wrong person.
Well,
Um,
and she's going to wait and hear what. Well, no, actually, we hear that later where she talks to Brittany, I guess. But
Yeah,
yeah,
she'll wait and hear things and then just do
yeah,
exactly what she was going to do all along.
right.
Uh, we've got Dolores in her confessional saying she trusts Danielle. She's an honest and loyal person. If I call you a friend, you're my family. And I don't know if they know each other outside of this show. I
I
don't
mean, not to
think
my
so.
knowledge. I think that she just has made a friend in her, and she's like, I want to go to the end with her. And I'm thinking, oh, don't worry, Dolores. Danielle wants to go to the end with you too.
Yeah. Um, yeah, just sort of blind kind of naivety. Dylan and Ivar are in the bar. That rhymes in my accent. And yeah, this is what you mentioned before that
Yeah.
Dylan says you and I are the. I think it's Dylan, maybe it's Ivar. One of them says you and I are the last faithful for sure.
Yeah. Ivar
Uh,
starts by saying it.
okay.
Because at first he says, we're the only two faithfuls. And it's like, what? And then he says, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. You know,
Everyone else is a traitor.
yeah.
And yeah, they seem to have figured out like there's either one or two traitors left. Ivar pinpoints Danielle. He's suspicious of her saying that her mind is always racing and she can't sleep and she can't stop thinking. I don't quite understand his logic because Ivar, I think, is different from everybody else. He says I sleep just fine. I don't strategize,
Yeah.
and it made me laugh, and I thought that doesn't make others. I mean, Danielle is a traitor, but it doesn't make her a traitor because she's worried all the time. It just makes you a bit strange, Ivar. um,
Columbo, I'm telling you.
oh yeah, I guess. Dylan says again. You've mentioned this that he has never trusted Gabby. I still don't know why. Like, I know he's voted for her a couple of times. I don't know why he doesn't trust her. Is it because she seems quite sort of ditzy and he thinks it's all an act? I don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't know either. It may be similar to the thing that Brittany later brings up about how she never
Made
talked,
connections with anyone
yeah, made
else. Yeah.
connections outside her Bambi group,
Yeah, maybe.
you know.
So it's yeah, maybe it's I don't trust you because I don't know you well enough, that sort of
Well,
thing.
and also, why do you feel so safe that you don't need to make
Mm,
connections outside your group?
yeah, yeah. We've got Gabby and Brittany, and
Hmm.
Gabby also says she thinks there are still two traitors. Brittany sort of feigns shock at this, and Gabby suspects Danielle and Dolores, and she reiterates her thought that last night's round table was traitor on traitor. She even tells Brittany that, uh, Danielle has been keeping you under her spell. You need to be
Hmm.
careful. So Gabby, unless she's acting amazingly, clearly doesn't suspect Brittany and trusts
Yeah,
her in this moment.
she has not properly read this relationship.
Mm.
And to her credit, Brittany did a good acting job.
Yeah,
Uh, one of the better acting jobs we've seen on the show. And, uh, but really suspecting Dolores of being a traitor?
yeah.
I'm not sure Dolores knows what a traitor is.
Yeah, I didn't know where that came from. But you're right. Gabby, even if she doesn't think Brittany's a traitor, she surely sees that Brittany and Danielle are very, very close. So I think she should maybe be a bit more careful about what she's saying to Brittany. Like,
Yeah,
Brittany's not going to suddenly switch allegiance to her because of this conversation. She's
right.
just going to go back to Danielle and tell her this. So, Brittany's worried. Yeah, she confirms that to us that she needs to oust Gabby tonight. I did wonder why. Like, I sort of was thinking in loops and circles and trying to think the next stage. I wondered, don't you want to keep her till the next banishment so that we don't hear her reveal that she, like, if they get her out tonight, she's just going to say she's a faithful,
Yeah,
which is
but
going to throw everybody.
whoever they get out
Well,
tonight is going to
yeah,
say that
yeah,
in their plan.
that's kind of what I ended
Yeah.
up circling back to. I thought, right, if Gabby goes tonight, she'll just say she's a faithful. Where's everyone going to look next? Surely
Iva.
they're then just going to look at, well, Ivar, I guess. I, yeah, I sort of wondered if I was in their shoes, I would, and I know that I don't think Danielle and Brittany are going to do this, and maybe this spoils my prediction of what's going to happen. I would just turn on my fellow traitor at this point because I think you're whoever if they're going to end up vanishing a faithful tonight, and they're going to stand up and say I'm a faithful, and they're going to be like, damn. And from here on in, they're going to the player's going to be so paranoid, they're just going to keep banishing people. So I don't know. I feel like I
But
would just turn on my traitor
I
right now
mean,
and get them out.
I think under normal circumstances, they would. This is not normal circumstances. This is a pre existing, broken, and healed relationship,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And so that's why, I mean, we'll talk about the cliffhanger at the end of the episode, but, that's why I've been saying for weeks now, they will not turn on one another.
yeah,
And you don't have that situation normally. It is a very huge difference between this version of the show and other versions of the show.
yeah,
Um, that use, they have normies,
yeah.
the normal people. Um, just like I think if housewives stay around, they tend not to want to turn on one another.
Mm.
Usually, some of them want to stab each other in the back, but like so, it's just a different version of the show when something like this happens.
Yeah, yeah. Next, we've got Brittany talking to Dylan about Gabby, saying that she only ever talks to the Bambi posse, or only did talk to the Bambi posse. They're kind of gone now. And
She has
she's,
seances.
she says, how can that make her faithful? And I didn't totally follow her logic at this point. I understand it a bit more later.
Yeah, I had to wait until she explained it all at the end there.
Yeah. I sort of wondered at this point, if anything, it you could argue that it did make her look like a faithful because if anything, I think traitors are the ones to want to make friends with everybody and be really amiable and make people not want to get rid of them. So I don't know. I think you could take what Gabby's doing and argue either way,
Right,
maybe.
right.
Brittany also mentions that Gabby voted for Danielle last night. This sort of keeps coming up as a reason now to suspect her. And I mean, I guess it's because they think if Gabby is a traitor, she wouldn't have voted out her fellow traitor Carolyn unless she was turning on
Because
her.
yeah, no one would ever do that. No traitor would ever do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I just sort of thought it doesn't really prove anything that she
Hmm.
voted for Danielle. And Gabby wasn't the only one to do it. Well, Dolores was kind of the only other person left. And God, no, we don't know what Dolores is thinking. So, Gabby and Gabby and Danielle. I'm like, audio listeners, you're gonna have to come to YouTube to find out what I'm laughing at. Gabby and Danielle have another meeting full of awkward silence and non-speak. They both just know what the other one is
Yeah.
thinking, and there's no point in pretending to be really honest with one another. We sort of cut back and forth. We're back to Dylan. He's confirming to Brittany that she doesn't have to sell him on Gabby. We've got Gabby telling us that she won't break the awkward silence with Danielle. She's happy to stay in her seat beside the cold-blooded killer, while Danielle tells us she's going to annihilate Gabby. And at this point, I wrongly predicted that's where the episode was going. I thought Gabby was gone. I
Hmm.
was really surprised. You know, my prediction last time was Danielle would go now. So at this point in this episode, I thought, oh, what the tables have turned. Like I thought Gabby was going, and I was really surprised. Another one of my surprises as I was watching this episode. By the way, I love the episode. Like this is my
Yeah.
favorite episode so far. I thought it was so exciting. And
It's
and
interesting because a lot of people really did not like this episode
oh,
because
I loved watching it.
essentially nothing happened.
Uh, I guess,
You
but
know,
I enjoyed all the shocks along the
yeah,
way. So, and
yeah,
I know some people hate the cliffhangers. I love a cliffhanger. I'm happy for a cliffhanger and to wait a week. Like it doesn't bother me that like I'm happy to have a bit of unknown. Anyway, when it's truly well, I'm saying truly unknown. We'll get to what you think's going to
yes.
happen. It's time for the mission. We are in the jeeps. We've got Danielle and Brittany with a bit of
So,
alone time.
so
Oh,
let me just
sorry.
tell
Yeah, yeah.
you, I took 3 sentences on notes from the mission, plus a very funny quote at the end.
Okay.
Let me give you my notes for the mission, okay, and then you can expand as necessary. Clown's memory game, dolls with pull strings, running around to get coins out of muck-filled bags.
Yeah, good summary. Uh, I'll go a little deeper. But the mission itself, yeah, it's it's kind of doesn't really matter. I mean, I know it's going to decide who the seer is, but we don't know who that's going to be. So the mission could have been anything.
Yeah.
Um, in the Jeeps, Danielle and Brittany are alone, which is actually quite unusual that traitors ever get time alone together. So they've got this time in the Jeep. They're pretty sure that both of them, plus Dolores and Dylan, will vote out Gabby tonight. So they're feeling confident about that. We've got Dolores and Dylan. Meanwhile, Dolores is saying that the traitor is either Gabby or Ivar. And I actually aloud went, "What?" Like I actually spoke out loud to my like I was so baffled. And Dylan is sort of I think pretending he doesn't know what he's gonna do. I kind of do think Dylan is, has made his mind up. I don't know. I don't think he's as confused as he's pretending to be. At least to he's not saying to Dolores like, "Huh, Ivar?" Like he's just sort of humoring her. I think. Uh, they arrive at the mission. Allan tells them that they're going on a journey through the woods and they'll revisit parts of their journey through the game so far, kind of, for a massive $30,000 or dollars, as Allan would say. But that's not all. For about the 700th time, Allan tells them they could also win a power that will turn the game on its head. And like, I'm
For some
Scottish
reason,
and
you do his accent
I
better
have
than
to
I
do
do.
Alan's accent like it's
Yeah.
different because it is different. And he now reveals that the person who wins the most gold will become the seer. And Gabby asks, "What's the seer?" And by the way, I'm really gutted. I can't talk like Carolyn now, and I can't do my Carolyn impressions. We had a comment on Spotify from Jocelyn. Jocelyn said, "I don't know if you guys see these comments," meaning you and I, but
Yeah.
Matthew doing Carolyn's voice is literally my favorite part of all these podcasts. I don't know if it's spot on, but it is spot hilarious. I'll take that,
There,
Jocelyn. I was just capturing the essence of Carolyn. So I can't really. Well, I might do it once in a while. R.I.P. Carolyn. So Allan explains what the seer is. We know what it is. I don't need to go over it. And then he says for the 701st time that it has the power to turn the game on its head. I he says this one more time.
And
I
I'm
want to stab
and I
myself in the face.
I'm thinking, yes, we know that, and not in a good way. You know.
So now that they know what it is, we've got Dylan. He says he wants to use. I think very smartly, actually. He says he wants to use the power to identify a faithful and go to the end with them.
Hmm.
And I thought it's very interesting that I think most people's reaction would be, "Oh, I can find a traitor." And having seen this play out elsewhere, actually, I think finding a traitor is not a good thing at this point. Uh, because, well, what may happen is you find a trait, you become the seer, you pick someone, you go into your secret meeting and they say, "I'm a traitor." You've then got to go and convince everyone else that you're not lying about
Yeah.
it. And the traitor is going to try and convince everyone that you are lying about it. So you end up with this problem of just people trying to decide who to believe and maybe just getting rid of both of you. So I actually think it's smart of Dylan to say, no, I would use it to find a faithful and just be sure I've got an ally. So I think that's smart,
Yeah.
even though it may not seem like the obvious thing to do.
Yeah.
Uh, Brittany she wants it really badly. She wants to avoid detection, as does Danielle. She's desperate to win it. First challenge is the clowns. They appear with the golden balloons. Now here, it's only now that I remembered. Oh, right, this mission is coming back to me from another season. I still didn't know up until this point what was going to happen. Each clown has either $500 or a skull inside their waistcoat. There's 10 that are the gold, five skulls. The players have to memorize where everything is. After the clowns have done a little dance, and they'll show who they choose by popping the clown's balloon. So yeah, the clowns reveal their pockets. It doesn't seem like there's any strategy chat amongst the players. Like they didn't. Dylan
They're just
says,
all independently watching
yeah,
some.
and I get there is a competitive element. You want to be the player that gets the most gold and becomes the
Yeah.
seer. But Dylan says, well, I could just focus on the skulls. There's five skulls, but there's no way you can keep track of five skulls moving around. It's impossible. So it's just funny that someone didn't go right. I'll memorize that one. You get that. You pick the one right in front of you. Like
Hmm.
they kind of just seemed to do it in silence, which was interesting. And of course, Dylan then fails as soon as he tries it. All the others get gold in their first attempt. Dolores tries a second time and wins. Gabby loses. Brittany wins, and they all stick after this. Second challenge is the dolls in the chairs. The dolls are back from the creepy singing backwards mission where Tom shone. They have to pull the cord to reveal an amount and then either keep pulling and gambling or bank their amount. And the doll at some point will tell them they've been too greedy. Um, uh, there's not much to say. The mission
Yeah.
happens. Okay.
Yeah.
um, uh, we've got a little bit of Ivar saying he's fairly convinced Danielle's a traitor. He wants to stop her from winning. And by the end of this one, Dylan and Gabby still don't have anything banked. I thought that they would flash up on the screen everybody's amount, and they don't. So I kind of couldn't really keep track of how much every. I mean, I could have if I really tried, but
Hmm.
what's the point? Because the last mission could change
Right.
it all anyway. So challenge three, Alan tells them he does tell them that Brittany, Danielle, and Dolores have the most money so far. He doesn't go into specifics. There are many cages suspended, and there are gold coins hidden in sacks around the woods. They have to fill their cage with coins and hoist it in the air. Um, Alan almost says this. He says again, the seer is a power like no other. Stop saying it. They've got 5 minutes. Another version that we have seen worked by not telling the players how much time was
Hmm.
left. They were told you have to sort of count in your head and guess when the 5 minutes is up. I like that actually. I wish they had done that
Yeah.
here. There's
Yeah.
more. It makes it more than just a physical game about speed and agility. It's just sort of
Yeah.
another element of focusing on something else and multitasking. But hey, they
Hmm.
don't do it this time. There's just a montage of them running around, collecting, banking. There's no way to tell from this who's actually
And
collecting
talking
the
about how
most.
disgusting the bag, whatever's in the
Yeah.
bags are.
Yeah. At the end, they all hoist their cages. Alan tells them that he'll reveal who the seer is after the round table tonight.
And then the best part of the episode,
Oh,
where Dylan says, "One exploded in my face." And Alan, with
he just
perfect comedic timing, says, I hate that.
Yeah. It made me laugh.
This
Uh,
this was easily my most liked Blue Sky post of the night. All I did was post that quote. I thought about posting a GIF. Nope, just that quote. And
so, I mean, you could be lying about this because I'm still not on Blue Sky, but I'll just have to trust
see,
you.
my
It's coming.
way
It's
of
on its
getting
way.
you on
It's on
Blue
its way.
Sky.
Danielle called. There's a moment here, by the way. I thought I had the episode ruined for me. So
Oh,
I had this moment of thinking, oh man, I know what's going to happen. But actually, I was wrong. It's my own fault. I had been scrolling in social media a little bit today,
Blue Sky.
not Blue Sky. Um,
I
and I
just
should
wanted to
know on a
know if I
Friday.
needed to alter anything I might say. You know, if you,
I should know not to do this when I've not seen the episode, right? So
yes,
I scrolled, and a few times I thought, oh, I have to be really careful. I don't see a traitors thing. And I did a couple of traitors posts appeared, and I quickly scrolled past them. But and at least a couple of posts there were mention of the Bachelorette, and I didn't know why people were. I thought people were maybe talking about Pete from last season, or it was about the
mm,
Bachelor or something. And at this point in the episode, Danielle refers to Gabby as the Bachelorette herself.
mm-hmm.
I actually had forgotten that that's who
Me
Gabby
too.
was and that's why she was on the show. And so suddenly I started putting things together in my mind and I thought, oh, she's the Bachelorette. I've seen things on social media about the Bachelor or the Bachelorette. That means Gabby's going to get banished. Man, I was so mad at myself. Actually, it turns out I was wrong, and I don't know why
Yeah,
people happen to be commenting on The Bachelor. But hey. So, back to the castle.
we do it just to mess with you.
Yeah. Well, it worked. Uh, at the castle, we've got Gabby grabbing Dylan, quickly talking to her about Danielle, talking to him about Danielle, and finally comes back to this thing from days and days ago, maybe even weeks ago. Finally, the night that she saw or heard Danielle and Carolyn leaving the secret
Yes,
room together, and it was the night of the nail in the coffin, murder in front of everybody, sort of thing. I had forgotten about that, so I was quite glad that it came
I
back.
I just thought that it was one of those editing tricks that she didn't
Mm,
really hear it, that they showed her coming into the room, they showed those two coming out, but it was meant to make it look like it was a close call, but it really wasn't.
yeah,
But I guess it was.
it was, and even at the time, I remember that the next morning at breakfast, Gabby was going to use it, even at that point,
Mm,
against Danielle. And she asked, or someone asked at breakfast, who was in the secret room last night? And Gabby knew that if Danielle didn't admit it, she'd kind of caught her. But actually, Danielle wisely did admit it and said, oh, yeah, I was in there.
hmm
So Gabby had dismissed it, but now it's kind of coming back to her like, well, wait a minute. Now that we know Carolyn was a traitor, it's kind of funny that Carolyn and Danielle were in there together. So
Yeah, yeah,
she also mentions Jeremy. Jeremy had named Danielle as a
right.
traitor, then got murdered, and how Danielle was the first to spread Carolyn's name, and that it was this traitor on traitor thing. And Dylan sort of agrees with her, but he tells us in his confessional he kind of still thinks it's Gabby. We've got Gabby leaving the room. Danielle arrives. This sort of awkward passing by, and he straight up tells her, "Look, it's between you and Gabby tonight."
hmm
And Danielle's doing her best acting. She's like, you're not going to write my name, are you? Oh my God, Dylan. And he's saying, I don't want to believe it. And I couldn't tell if it was wise of Dylan or not to do this. Like, generally, I think it's not a good idea to tell someone that you're probably going to vote
Yeah,
for them tonight.
unless he was looking for a tell of some sort.
Yeah, sort of, yeah, test her, see what she does. And maybe he thought she wasn't convincing enough, and that's why he does go ahead and vote for
Yeah,
her. I don't know. Uh,
yeah, uh,
So I worried
yeah,
that at this point, I worried he's telling her that he's has
yeah,
doubts about her. If she now survives and is a traitor, he's possibly just made himself a big target.
yeah. Now, I did notice you missed two very important things from Dolores.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, because
It's
it's
because
Dolores. It's Dolores. One of them is Dolores said to Gabby, I don't even know if I was the seer what I would do.
oh yeah.
And I was like, well, yeah, you don't know what you do on any given day here. So that's not surprising. And then the other thing was Dolores specifically mentioning as they walked into dinner to Gabby that dinner is venison casserole.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Gabby is in the Bambi group. Venison. Are they saying, is this foreshadowing they're
Oh my
going to
God.
eat her up at the round table? But I guess not. That's
Ah,
where my mind immediately went at the time. So
that's so funny.
I
Yeah,
think
I
it would have
love.
been hilarious if it happened, but
Yeah, I love the idea that producers are like subliminally messaging them through the food. Banish the Gabby tonight. She's a.
we're serving you Bambi. I did
Yeah,
notice that she did not commit, cannibalism. She skipped the venison. So
yeah. I didn't notice it. Didn't notice it at all. Um, we've got. There's a little bit of Danielle in her confessional, and we get a few of these. She's saying it's
mhm.
going to be a big battle for her. Um, she says for the first time though, she's got someone she can believe in and trust by her side, so she feels like her and Brittany, they've got a
Right.
good thing here. Dylan leaves the room. Brittany joins Danielle. So they've got like a little moment together, which is a bit easier now that there are fewer people in the game. And Danielle tells Brittany about Dylan. Brittany's horrified. It's actually quite funny, her reactions.
Yeah.
Um, and Brittany goes into damage control. So she, I, right. She, I've got a few things to say here. Brittany goes running around the castle. She's trying to
Yes.
find people. She finds Dolores. I make it. This is where I'm making my prediction about you, David. I am certain you are going to use a little clip here for social media because because Brittany talks to Danielle. Brittany talks to Dolores. She's like, right, who are you going to vote for? And Dolores says something insane like, I'm going to vote for Ivar.
Yeah.
And Brittany just looks at her and then says, in her interview, her
Yeah.
voiceover goes, Dolores, do you know how numbers work? Do you know how to count? And
It's not even that high. Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
David will be using this.
Oh yes, I absolutely will. I have saved that. It is not the one I posted already, but I have saved that, and it's just like, really, do you think Dolores knows how numbers work? We know she doesn't know how this game works, so I believe the numbers may be beyond her as well.
It's it's just not it's nuts, but it's so funny. I like was really
Yes,
laughing at Brittany just like losing her mind, like, oh my
I
God, why are you doing
I
this?
told you, Brittany is the queen of the confessional.
Yeah.
Is what
It's
she is known for.
it's great. It's just chaos seeing her scrambling around. She's trying to find people.
Oh yeah, when
It's
she ran out, she's running around. Where is he? Wait, runs outside, turns around. I
eventually she
really
finds
I should have captured that and put it at like high speed Benny Hill music or
yeah,
something.
with
I
the
may
bed,
have to
yeah,
go back and do that.
exactly. That's it. That would be good. I wish production had done that. It would have made me laugh.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a little bit sort of off tone for
yeah,
the traitors, but for social media, they should do it. So she finds Ivar, and he's just saying he's dead set on Danielle. And it comes down to Brittany almost crying, just saying she cannot write Danielle's name down. And Ivar even says, look, it comes down to you, basically. He says this thing. And he says Danielle's a smart cookie and is out to win. And I sort of thought he's implying to her, I know that you two are besties and that you trust each other, but you shouldn't be so sure that Danielle's not going to vote you out if she has to. I kind of got the sense that that's what Ivar was
hmm
trying to communicate. Like, I know you're saying you're never going to write her name down, but maybe you shouldn't say that. And he even finishes by saying, it's a game, sweetheart. It really is. It's going to get
yes,
messy.
yes. See, and this is the thing. Okay, Ivar, my Columbo theory is coming to fruition. He even said when she went for Carolyn, she stopped shaking and she was
Mm,
focused.
yeah.
He is right there. He drops all pretenses of being the
The sort of
ditzy
bumbling, yeah.
royal, you know? And all of a sudden he's in the game. And it's like, where did he come from?
Yeah.
But so my first thought at Ivar telling Brittany it's just a game, and I posted this at the time. I was thinking, well, sure it is, but it's a game for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Hmm.
And maybe that doesn't mean much to you, Mr. British Royal, but we know it means something to Brittany and Danielle. Not to mention the emotions at play for Britney right now with the whole Danielle situation. But then I was like, well, I wonder how much Ivar does have. I wonder how much money he has.
Hmm.
And so I looked it up online, which led me down a rabbit hole. And it turns out he's not worth nearly as much as I thought. There's a website called Company Check. I've never heard of it before, estimating his net worth at around $1 million, give or take for exchange rates. And this actually puts him in the middle of the pack for this cast
Hmm.
overall, based on a Yahoo article that estimated it. They even rate Gabby as having more money than Ivar.
Yeah.
Um, but the same Yahoo article also screwed up because it said Tony only won $2 million when he actually won $3 million. Um, Dorinda, since I went down this rabbit hole, everybody gets to come down with it with me. Dorinda, if we remember Dorinda, I
I
never
truly
remember
forgot
she's.
who she was for a moment, but
Yeah, me too. Until I was looking at this article, she was shown as the highest with $10 million. Nikki was the second highest with $8 million. And the one that surprised me the most was Ian only having $1 million. I kind of
oh yeah,
presumed, being a real housewife of Dubai, that,
Dubai, yeah.
but I also wonder if they separated the net worth of people from their spouses,
Hmm. Yeah.
because, like, for Boston Rob, they mentioned that he won $1 million, but didn't mention that his wife also won $1 million.
Hmm.
So, anyway, this was where my brain took me, all because Ivar said it's just a game.
Yeah. Um. Well, a couple of things. I guess I'm going on a tangent, but
Well, I
even
didn't,
if,
or anything, so I don't know why you would.
well, I'm continuing the tangent. I'm taking the tangent further. What I would say about what I would guess about Ivar is, even if he's quote unquote only worth a million
Mm-hmm.
dollars or £1 million or whatever, I think being a royal still gives you a certain safety net that you probably will be saved
Yes.
by your rich relatives. Um, whatever fluctuations there are in the money you have in the bank.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess, yeah, we who knows whether these websites are accurate or not. Um, I maybe I read his comment, it's a game, sweetheart, a little bit differently to you. I didn't think he was saying it in a way that he was dismissing the money. I thought he was just trying to like encourage her, yet to not be so caught up in her allegiance to Danielle. I just thought he was trying to say, like, she's a game player, it's a game. Maybe you shouldn't put your friendship above what she's
Yeah.
probably going to do to you. I don't know. I just
Yeah.
thought he
I
was
was
trying to
reading
make
it
her see the
as
light.
it's just a game. So if you turn on her, it's not that big a deal.
Hmm.
But it's not like it's just a game in your own backyard. I mean, it's a game with real money
A big,
involved.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's time for round table. Here we go. We've got Danielle going in saying she's worried about Dylan. She needs Brittany and Dolores to vote with her so that she can live another day. Although I did think, even if you have Brittany and Dolores, that still would just make a tie.
Yeah.
Little did I know I was predicting what was going to
Yeah.
happen. Like, so I thought that's still not. She was saying like, I just need Brittany and Dolores and I'll be fine. And I thought that doesn't make you fine. And we've got Brittany saying that she'll support Danielle without standing out too obviously. I guess she means just in case Danielle gets banished and then she looks
Yeah.
bad. She says it's the most stress she's ever been before round table. Then we get this random clip of Dolores, and she says she's going for either Ivar or Gabby. But of course, I always listen to everyone. A, I thought, no, you don't. B, I thought,
Well,
why
she
are they?
listens, and then it goes in one
Well,
ear
yeah.
and out the other.
More importantly, I wondered, why are they showing us a clip of Dolores at this point? Like, usually they're leading us in with the confessionals that really like make a difference and they allude to what's going to play out.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, I think correctly, if I do say so myself, I thought this is significant. If they're showing us Dolores talking about Ivar and Gabby, some something's going to come of this. Like there's a yeah. I just thought there's a reason they've picked this little clip of Dolores, which should be meaningless. It's going to mean something.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we arrive in the room. Allan is here. He tells them the prize pot at this point is $166,800. And yeah, I even wrote down in my notes like that is a lot of money, even to
Yeah.
someone on TV. Like I reckon that's probably more than anyone's appearance fee. I would guess. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I would certainly
I
think
work in
so.
TV, but I'm not like a
Yeah.
budgets person. I'm
Right.
not really in production. So, but I reckon that's more than anyone's getting paid
Oh,
to be
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Um, and there's still more money to come next. We're not even at the fight. There's still another mission that will add
Oh,
another
yeah. I'm sure
30,
it'll,
40, 50K or whatever.
I was going
So,
to say, I'm sure it'll get up to at least 200.
yeah. So Alan invites them to speak. As always, it seems like there's a big, long, awkward pause.
Hmm.
And Brittany eventually begins. She tells Gabby kind of what, sort of, what's the word? She elaborates on what she'd said earlier. She
Right.
tells Gabby, look, and she tries to, she's quite sort of diplomatic about it. Like, she's not coming at her really hard. She just says, the only thing that makes me worry about you is you stuck to the Bambi group. You stuck to your group at the early on in the game. Is that because you felt safe and you didn't really need to worry about making friends with other people? Gabby's got this sort of interesting comeback. She says, yeah, she just sort of accepts it. And she's like, yeah, I guess. And she says, I don't have any loyalties at this table. And
Hmm.
I don't know why she's saying that, other than to just sort of admit the obvious and just appear
Oh, I
honest and be
thought she
like,
was doing it to connect Brittany and Danielle. Like, I don't have any
okay.
loyalties at this table. You
Ah,
know?
I didn't pick up on that. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. I wondered if she was just like, well, I can't deny it. I'm just gonna have to
Yeah.
be like, yeah, yeah, you're right. And I sort of, yeah, I thought she was sort of implying, yeah, it also means that I'm not in a traitor alliance, so I
Yeah.
can vote
Yeah.
like honestly.
Right.
And then comes Danielle. She returns to last night's roundtable. Sorry, she comes to Danielle, I should say. Returns to last night's roundtable. The idea that Danielle had such a strong case on Carolyn because, well, she knew for sure that Carolyn was a traitor. That's why she was so confident. She compares it to Boston Rob versus Bob the Drag Queen. Danielle's saying, no, well, I only attacked her because she came for me and I just brought the receipts. Uh, and Dylan steps up to say, yeah, but you destroyed her in that argument. I think he means, yeah, but you were so prepared to come back at her. Like,
Right.
you weren't taken aback, you were ready. And he says, I think there's a chance you were both telling the truth. Yeah, Ivar says the same. It was traitor on traitor in my mind. Danielle brings up her girl next door theory about Gabby.
Well, hold
And,
on. First, you can't
oh,
leave out
oh,
because she says, to be a traitor, that's
oh.
not me. I can't do that. I don't have the stomach to be a traitor.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple of times she talks about
Right.
like I just couldn't do it. It couldn't be me.
Yeah.
Which is like fine, fair enough, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can use that as a defense. Like I'd struggle so much. I
Yeah.
do also kind of think you don't know that unless you don't really know that if you're a faithful. You don't really know how you'd cope with it,
Well,
but
I
yeah,
mean, if you believe the personality that she has been conveying, the shaking, the crying, all of that, then yes, you probably could believe that she wouldn't be able to handle being a traitor.
yeah, like I'm a nervous wreck. You've all
Right.
seen me. Come
Yeah.
on.
So
Yeah.
if you believe, which I'm sure is one reason that she put on that persona the
Mm,
entire time.
yeah.
It's like this is her baseline according to those who only know her from this time.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I thought that Gabby sort of quite rightly defended herself when Danielle said like,
Yes.
"Oh, like you're the girl next door, and that would make you the perfect
Hmm.
traitor." And Gabby says, "Yeah, that's a personality trait that's gotten us into trouble before." And we've talked about this a lot on the podcast. Like,
Right.
um, is it a wise idea to accuse someone of being a traitor and vote for them because of either their personality type or their
Hmm.
job or their previous what show did they come from? Are they a Survivor person? Are they a Big Brother player? Or is it wise because you're thinking like a producer and you're thinking, well,
Right.
who would the producers have chosen to be a great traitor for the sake of
Hmm.
TV? So I think there's sort of arguments either side.
Right.
So Danielle could be saying, yeah, you seem really sweet and lovely, and that's why they might have picked
Hmm.
you as a traitor because it would be really funny to watch, like Carolyn.
Yeah.
um, Danielle comes back to the murders. It would make sense. All the people that have been murdered, I would never kill those people. And Gabby's like, well, Tom has just got murdered and he threw out your name. But Danielle, like you said, she's like, well, I didn't know that. She
Yeah.
says, I voted for Boston Rob twice. Gabby says, so did I. That kind of cancels one another out. And Gabby talks about how she's an easy target. She's been kept around in the game for this very moment. And she says, I'm a strong woman and I'm being falsely accused, and we've seen this before, which I think is true.
Hmm.
Um, then then comes Dolores. Uh, she says, Danielle, I've never seen Tracer in you, but it doesn't have to be another girl. Like it doesn't mean it's Gabby. And she comes to Ivor and she says, Bob voted for you twice. I'm like, I know, am I, why does that make him a traitor? Because Bob, I don't get it. Does she
Yeah.
mean, oh, Bob was trying to get out another traitor, so he picked you?
Apparently, because Bob voted for Ivor on the way out,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I,
then it's just and and
okay.
then they said something I didn't understand it. Something about that Bob said something about him being a royal also. And Ivar
Oh,
just got
yeah.
annoyed about that. He was like, that
Yeah.
has nothing to do with anything, you know? And um,
But didn't Bob vote for Rob on the way out?
I don't remember.
Because
I
it must have
honestly,
been like it was the Bob versus Raw big
yeah,
fight.
it was.
So, but I
So then
think
I don't know.
before that he had twice
Maybe,
voted for
yeah.
Ivar. But I don't know how that. Because that, what that be, if Dolores thought it through,
Yeah.
Bob the drag queen voted for Ivar twice and then voted for Boston Rob and then left. Boston Rob we now know was a traitor. That
Hmm.
would mean that Bob the drag queen voted for a fellow traitor every time he voted. That doesn't
And
seem,
switch them.
yeah, that doesn't seem
No.
likely.
I mean,
Okay.
you're asking Dolores to think.
Listeners, is she a real housewife? Is that her thing?
I'm guessing.
Don't please don't come for I
She's certainly not like
Dolores.
not like a rocket scientist or something.
David said it, not me. Come for David, not me. Listeners, if you're a
Come for
Dolores
me. Bring
fan,
it.
she seems like she's probably a lovely person. She
Does
seems like
she?
she'd be a nice friend.
Does she?
I just think she hasn't got a clue what's going on in the game. That's what we're criticizing. Don't send us horrible messages, right? I don't know anything about this woman.
I don't
She's
either,
probably great.
other than the game and a couple of things I've heard on interviews, which I'll
Oh,
discuss
okay.
later.
Okay. So Ivar sort of says like it would be pointless.
Yeah,
Um,
which is what Dolores does.
yeah, he's like, why would you? What's the point in voting for me?
Yeah,
He's like, I think everybody else realizes that it would be really
yeah.
dumb. Well, again, even he's underestimating what's going to happen. There's lots of shots of Britney just sort of darting eyes around the table. It looks like she's trying to figure out what the hell's going to happen. I feel she's inhabited the spirit of Carolyn. And she's just like making these wild, just like, like these mad expressions. By the way, I love
Okay,
Carolyn. I'm not making
okay.
fun of her.
Did you see? So after Dolores said, "I am voting Ivar," did you see? I didn't see it the first viewing, but on my second viewing, in addition to Brittany looking around, they had Danielle. They had a close up on Danielle, and if where I'm sitting, like there was a triangle
Mm,
of Danielle was here, and then Brittany was to the left, and
yeah,
then to her left, and then
yeah,
Ivar was to her right as a triangle because they were a six-pointed triangle.
yeah.
And so Danielle is looking at Brittany. When she catches her eye, she does this rapid eye movement to the right, like she's pointing with her eyes over to Ivar. And I think she was telling Brittany, vote for Ivar.
Yeah, I did notice that. Yeah, but and it's not the only example of like eyes seeming to like trying. Yeah, I kind of I've got a thought on this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I think there are possibly other things we didn't see, but that's
Well,
always
I
the case.
I think probably as we go into voting here, or I think we're about to. I mean, before I saw that, and even after, I think that probably they had discussed what Dolores had said, that it's going to be one of these two. And they realized if they could figure out what Dolores was doing, they could jump on board that. So I think that was the signal of, okay, jump on board and vote for Ivor.
Yeah. Um, I'm just sort of looking ahead to remind myself. Yeah, but so here's what I was thinking. I was sort of as I was watching the episode, I paused. I was making my notes. I was trying to figure out like right what's probably gonna happen now.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I thought was gonna happen. Brittany knows Ivar and Gabby are definitely going to vote for Danielle, and Danielle is definitely going to vote for Gabby. So and I know obviously Dolores is going to vote for Ivar. It's kind of all about I thought what she and Dylan were going to do. I thought it's down to her and Dylan to decide who's going to get banished. If Dylan votes for Gabby, it means Brittany's got the deciding vote. So I thought if I'm Brittany, I would just vote for Gabby. Even if Dylan votes for Danielle, I
Right.
know this is complicated. Even if Dylan votes for Danielle, Brittany voting for Gabby will still get Gabby out. It'll be 3 versus 2 against Gabby.
Mm-hmm.
I thought if I was Brittany, there's no point in even taking a chance in voting for Danielle. If you don't know what Dylan's going
Right.
to do, just go
Right.
for Gabby.
Yeah.
So that's what
Except,
I thought was going to happen.
yeah. Except, yeah.
So the votes begin. Ivar begin, and it obviously means that we're going to finish with Dylan. So I thought, yeah, okay, Dylan's vote's going to be important. Ivar goes for Danielle, not a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Dolores votes for Ivar, not really a surprise.
This was when I wrote the note. She's the biggest waste of space in this game. That's what I wrote when I thought she was throwing away her vote, which she technically was until other people joined in. But yes.
Yeah, even like Fergus is sort of playing more of a role in this game than
Yeah.
Dolores. Uh, she votes for Ivar, says a couple things, and then she goes, "That's all I have." And I thought, "That's all you have? Not any of the other stuff that everybody's talked about
Yes.
with Danielle and Get." Um, so Danielle's next and votes for Ivar,
Yeah.
and I gasped. I was like, I don't know what the hell was going on. Mind
Yeah.
blown. I thought, what the hell is she doing? So I thought, maybe the plan is now. Is the plan to get out Ivar now, and then next week double down on Gabby? But then I foolishly thought, but no one else is going to vote for Ivar. And she claims that she just had an aha moment.
Right.
So I thought, is she hoping for a tie so that then she can re-vote and change it? Gabby votes for Danielle, not a surprise. And then Brittany also votes for Ivar. So this is where I thought like what you mentioned that they were sort of making eye
Mm-hmm.
contact. And I thought this yeah, they must have when they vote when they write down their names and they're just I thought they must have had a moment, if it wasn't just the eyes, of sort of mouthing to one another, just do I like they
Well,
must
I
have
think,
communicated with each other.
I think knowing who these two are, it would not surprise me at all to find out as soon as Dolores told Brittany it will be one of these two.
Hmm.
When Brittany was running around frantically after that, I suspect that at some point during that franticness, she found Danielle
Yeah.
and they agreed if we can get her to say ahead of time who she's voting for,
Yeah,
we
just go
just
with it.
join in.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Danielle was just re-emphasizing that with her eyes to um
Yeah. I thought so
so
too. I thought actually it all come down to Dolores explicitly saying that she was going to vote for Ivar. So that yeah, that if she had left it up in the air,
mhm.
maybe it would have been different. But yeah, I thought that. And we finished with Dylan, and he votes for Danielle. So it's our first tie of the season, which is
Mhm.
exciting. Tie is good fun. Um, and I'm left thinking, well, who? I sound like Linda from UK Traitors. Who the hell is going to change their vote? So that's what I was wondering. And Allan says we cannot and will not leave this room until someone is banished. Danielle and Ivar must make a final plea. Another vote will take place. Danielle and Ivar won't cast a vote. And he says that if it's still a tie, their fate will be decided by chance. And
No,
we've.
he doesn't say their fate.
Oh,
He says our fate or your fate.
oh, okay.
Something like that. I should have written it down. Because we've had this discussion before on
Yeah.
another season. We still don't actually know how the tiebreaker rule works. And I
Yeah.
had a number of people ask me this. Is it random between the people who are tied, or is it survivor rules where it penalizes everyone else for not being able to reach a decision? And no, it's one of the other people. We still don't know.
Yeah.
I think based on what just he didn't say their fate, but the way he said whatever he said, I think he said your fate. I think it's one of the two people who are tied because I think he would have made a bigger deal out of if you
Like
remain tied, if you don't change your votes, one of
you're
you
all
is
out.
going.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
think so too.
yeah, so I think it's just one of the people who are tied. It'll be a coin flip.
Yeah, I would bet money that that it's between the two people who are tied
Yeah.
and one of them will be chosen somehow. Uh, I think it feels well, A, it would maybe feel too much like Survivor to do what they
Hmm.
do. It would just feel I'm gonna say unfair. I know that not much in this game is fair. It would feel like it just sort of ruins like for one random
Yeah.
person to go like it would make it feel like, oh, what was the point of the round table? Like what was and it would for producers could get rid of a traitor who was going to make the game really exciting for the
Yeah.
finale. So yeah,
Still could.
that's what I guess would happen. Well, yeah, exactly. So they make their pleas. Ivar says, "I'm just a really relaxed sort of person." He says, "I don't do drama. I can't lie. If you banish me, you'll be going into the final with probably two traitors, and it'll be more difficult to win as a faithful."
Hmm.
Danielle basically focuses her attention solely on Dylan. She's
Well,
saying,
for
"Dylan,
yeah,
what?
first
Yeah,
we
yeah,
hear from Dylan saying to us, or maybe he says it to the table, I'm truly trying to separate my feelings from the game,
yeah,
which of course is one of my rules of playing. And I'm thinking, yes, go Dylan. And then right after he says it, Danielle's basically like, here's a huge chunk of emotional baggage I'm going to load onto you.
yeah,
So
yeah." Yeah, so we've got Danielle pleading to Dylan. She's saying, "I'm asking you, please believe me, I'm begging you, don't let me go out like this." Yeah, she obviously assumes she must assume he's the only one who's going to flip.
the only
So
one who has a chance. Yeah.
yeah, I'm finding it incredibly stressful watching it in a good way. I just thought it was so
Hmm.
exciting. I didn't know what was going to happen. And Brittany's she has this moment where she tells us that she looks at Dolores, who seems to look towards Danielle and nods. So making her think, oh, Dolores is going to now change and vote Danielle, which is very surprising to me.
Hmm.
I mean, she's been so focused on Ivar this time. I can't believe that Dolores would now suddenly change. Uh, but Brittany's still saying like she just can't betray Danielle. She can't do it. And Danielle is saying he doesn't know if he can risk losing based on his friendship with Danielle, and it's going to haunt him forever if he does the wrong thing or whatever. So it's time to vote again, and Dylan is now going to start, which means that we will end with Brittany, and he votes for Danielle. He just sticks to it,
Yep.
and he makes this point, which he says that if she is a traitor and she survives tonight, she will win because he
Yeah.
knows that there are people here who will never vote her
Yeah.
out. So like this is the chance to do it. And Dolores does vote Ivar again, and it looks like Brittany makes this really shocked reaction. Maybe they edited it out of context. I
Right.
don't know. Um, but she looks like horrified that she misread what Danielle was doing a minute ago. And at this moment, I thought, oh, we're going to end on a cliffhanger. This is going to be a clip. We're not going to find out what's going to happen now. Gabby's next and votes Danielle, so it's up to Brittany to either well, what she may vote for Danielle and Danielle goes, or
Hmm.
votes for Ivar and we get a tie, and we will find out what does happen when there's a tie and the episode ends.
And at this moment, the entire internet screamed. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, again, I love. I know some people hate a cliffhanger. I love a cliffhanger. Like I, unless someone like on social media somehow spoils it and we have it all ruined for us, but I found it really exciting. I thought it was a great episode. I thought it was the most exciting round table, the most unpredictable round table we've seen this season. I really enjoyed it.
Well, let me give you what happens in the preview. You ready?
Absolutely nothing?
Helicopter,
Oh yeah, helicopter mission. Yeah.
helicopter, SUVs, explosions, fast car. That's about all I got out of the preview.
Okay, great.
Uh,
So like a Bond movie.
yes, pretty much. Yes.
Okay.
Uh,
Um, I, I,
so we want to
we should do,
do
we could talk
questions.
about our predictions, or we could maybe get some questions from
Let's.
listeners. I think we have a few.
Um, yeah. We have a few questions. We can.
Okay. I'm going to start off with this. It's not necessarily about this episode, but I like this question. This is from Maria on Instagram. Maria says something I really like about the US version now that it's all celebrities is that there's no focus on who deserves or doesn't deserve the money the most. And I like that they try to dress up and Alan pretends he lives in the castle. I just think all versions need to cast at least 90% of people that have the potential to be traitors. It's less fun when the contestants try to play producer to see who would make the most sense as a traitor. Although they kind of did do a little bit of that in this episode. They should only cast one or two people a season who could only ever be faithful. So yeah, Maria's saying actually it's more fun when everyone could potentially be a traitor rather than a
Yeah.
game when there's a bunch of people who are like, I wouldn't want to be a traitor, and I told the host in my interview that I wanted to be a faithful. What do you think? Is it more fun when everybody has the potential to be a great traitor?
Oh, I think so. But also, if if I were there, I would say, "Oh yeah, I told the producer I didn't want to be a traitor. I can't do
Mm.
that. I only want to be a faithful." So I'd say it anyway. I mean,
Yeah,
whether I was a faithful or a traitor, I would say that.
yeah. I guess it depends. I mean, if you're one of the reality TV celebs,
Hmm.
maybe it would depend what show have you come from? How does
Right.
everybody already know you? And if you're like a game player and you've won
Hmm.
seasons and you've been really good at like betraying people and playing game to then pretend that you don't want to be a traitor might be a little bit unbelievable. But I like that point from Maria because
Yeah.
so often a lot of comments are I hate the celebrities and it's annoying and yeah, some aspects of it bother me too.
Right.
But I thought that was quite a nice point
Hmm.
from Maria.
Okay.
David.
All right. So I have this from Selfie Doodles. All of my comments are from Blue Sky. Selfie Doodles asks, if in the end Danielle and Brittany are the only players left, will the trader's dilemma kick in? Will they have to either steal or share? If so, do you think Danielle will give reindeer game payback and try to steal the money? I mean, I guess this would have been a good reason to do these after our predictions. I didn't think about that. I presume, yes, it will be the steal or share situation. Um, this isn't much of a spoiler for my predictions, but I think if they end up there together, I've been saying for a while that they will decide to share. It would be a real kick in the editing teeth for production to have shown us Danielle emotionally talking about wanting to share the money with Brittany and Brittany saying the same thing, and then have one of them change their mind at the last second.
Hmm.
So yes, if both of them make it to the end, I believe they will share.
Yeah. This also came up on YouTube in the comments about whether or not the game ends like this if there are two or more traitors. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
as far as I know, that is how the show always ends. I've only seen it on one other international season where there were two or more traitors left, and yeah, they did split or steal.
Right.
I think that's how it generally works.
Yes.
So I think that's if Brittany and Danielle make it to the end, I think that's what they'll be presented with, and I also predict if it is those two at the end,
Mm-hmm.
they will share. That's what I'd guess. Uh, I have an email from Nathan, and it's about the seer. I've not really even thought about what I think of this, but I just thought it'd be fun to discuss. He says, on the seer, I think it would work much better if both the seer and the chosen one were both revealed to each other. This would add a much better dimension. See, but also be seen. Would make it more interesting who wanted the power and also who they would choose. Any
I think it
thoughts on?
essentially does that because, well, no, it doesn't. I was going to say if a trader gets it, so if someone gets it, let's say it's you and me, I get it, and you're a faithful. So now I know you're a faithful, and I go out and I tell other people you're a traitor. Well, you could pretty damn well know that I'm a traitor.
Yeah.
But if I say you're a faithful, you don't know anything.
Yeah.
I could either be a faithful, confirming that you're a faithful, or I could be a traitor who just wants you on my side.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I think it might
I, yeah, but
uh
then nobody would want to win it. Or at least traders
yeah.
wouldn't want to win it, but they also wouldn't want it.
It would
It
a traitor would
complicates
only want
things.
to win it if like in this case there is more than one traitor.
Yeah,
Because
so
a traitor
Brittany
could
or
then just pick
Danielle
the
would
other
use it
traitor
on the other.
and they'd come back and say to
Yeah,
everyone, "Oh, we're both faithful."
right,
So yeah, I think they wouldn't introduce this for that reason
right.
because it could just ruin a faithful's game right at the end. I mean, it may do that anyway, but uh, I think for that reason, the seer shouldn't work that way.
Yeah. All right.
David.
Well, I had Mara on Blue Sky saying, they're doubting Dylan can pull out a seer win, having zero going into the last mission. But maybe they showed us a specific Dylan confessional for a reason. Dylan saying if he wins the seer and can definitely confirm a faithful, we could run it to the end. So this is something you mentioned.
Hmm.
Is that a good seer strategy to pick who you think is a faithful rather than a suspected traitor? Um, and I, I think you already actually discussed that. That if you can, well, I think a lot of it depends on the outcome of this vote
Hmm. Yeah.
because if you have two traitors left and a person who is beholden to them and won't even change their minds, I don't think it matters what the seer does.
Yeah.
Um, if you have something else, then it could matter. So I like what he's saying. That okay, I'm going to pick someone who I believe is a faithful and confirm it, so that I know if we get to the end who I have to go to. So we can banish everyone else, and I know I'm not going to lose the money.
Yeah.
I think that is a good end game strategy if you believe you have the numbers to get to the end.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
If you think it's something more immediate and you need to get rid of someone before then you go the other way.
Yeah. The more I think about this year, the more I do think I don't know if it works that well in the traitors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, what Dylan might, if you're a player like Dylan, who I think everybody believes is faithful, I don't think anyone is suspicious of him. I guess he could find someone that targets someone that everybody has suspicion of. Like, imagine Danielle survives,
Mm-hmm.
but they're all really still a bit, well, most of them are still a bit sus on her, perhaps. He could pick her, discover that she's a traitor, come back and tell everybody. And even though Danielle would deny it, maybe Dylan has such good faith with the other players, no pun intended, that they would all actually believe him and they'd banish Danielle and they'd trust him to the end and they'd win the day.
When you say they, there
Well,
will only be Dolores.
yeah, I'm sort of
He would
imagining
have
that.
to convince Dolores at that moment.
Yeah, and it would. I'm imagining a game where Britney also isn't a recruited traitor, like she's still a faithful or something. So a
Yeah.
game where there's only one traitor left, and you
Yeah.
manage to out them, and you're I don't know.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, this year I think comes from Werewolf, and And I was trying to think, well, how does it work in Werewolf if it doesn't work so well in the traitors? I think because in Werewolf you have like another role of like the Doctor, somebody that can save people. So the seer has like this extra level of safety
Well, and
and the seer when the seer finds out, the person who has been found out doesn't know that they've been found out, so that's
right.
another layer to it as well.
Well, and also Werewolf and Mafia are team games.
Mm,
So even if the seer comes out and reveals, the seer or the detective in Mafia comes out and reveals, these people are the werewolves slash mafia. Okay, you kill the seer that night,
yeah,
but then the townsfolk still win because they
yeah,
go after and eventually catch all the others because the seer told them. This isn't a team game.
yeah. So I think I've talked about this on the podcast
Mm-hmm.
before. Well, maybe it was in the UK version. I don't know that. I think the seer might work better if either it was used earlier in the game or if, like Werewolf, the person who is the seer, everybody doesn't know who the seer is, and
Right.
they choose whether they want to reveal it or not, and when they want to reveal it.
Yeah.
Maybe in this season, it's kind of been it's so limited. It's kind of been forced upon them
Yeah.
at the last minute. I think maybe that's what's not working that well. I have just a couple of, well, actually, how many more questions do you have,
I
David?
have two more questions.
If you can you give us another one for now?
Sure. So Gary asked, how does Danielle, the supposed elite gamer, get eaten alive by Gabby, the Bambi, at the round table and still squeak through? And, well, what I would say here is we don't know that she's squeaked through yet. Um, and I think that,
Or does
I
it mean
mean,
that Gabby squeaks through? Is that what you meant?
oh, I don't know.
Because
Just
she now won't be banished.
still squeak through. Yeah, I don't know. But I think, yeah, well, we'll go with Danielle squeaking through. But
Yeah.
um, I mean, the thing is, if I'm right and they planned for this, that's how.
Mm.
And Danielle, made some points back and pretended to be on Gabby's side at the end. And so the question is, how? Well, because you don't the other well first Danielle also has Dolores on her side, and Brittany on her side.
Hmm.
And even though, some interpretation can be, as Gary said, that she was eaten alive by Gabby, hmm, not everybody's going to have that same interpretation.
Mm. And maybe I'm sort of encroaching on my predictions, but I think that Gabby will just go next week. I think she isn't
Yeah.
making it to the end,
Yeah.
even though she survived this time. And uh, I mean, I guess I would just say that maybe I've been guilty of it, that we've underestimated Gabby. Like
Yeah.
maybe I don't think she is. I think she's more smart than maybe I gave her credit for. And actually, over the past couple of episodes, I've been quite impressed. So it doesn't matter that she didn't come
Right.
from a Survivor or a Big Brother background. Like she's figured things out. She's been
Yeah.
smart. She's got Danielle sussed. So yeah. Uh, I just have a couple of sort of quite fun questions, I thought, light-hearted, kind of a like this or that. These are from Joel, who sent them in an email. And Joel just asks, let's sort of pick one. If there was an all-star version of Traitors, would you rather have an all OG Traitor version or an all terrible faithful version? And he says the only reason he'd want an all terrible faithful version is because he really wants to see Quentin from US season one be consistently confidently wrong again.
Oh, definitely don't want to see that. So an all trader version, definitely. I don't need Quentin back on my screen, just like I'm not going to need Dolores back on my screen.
I mean, it would give us the chance for some like nice redemption arcs, but yeah, I think all traitors back again is fun to see the
Yeah.
mistrust and the uncertainty and
Yeah.
the yeah, good fun. Joel's other fun question is kind of for you, David. I think he says I read that Mike White of White Lotus fame is a
Hmm.
massive reality show fan and has been on Survivor as a real non-celebrity contestant. Do you
Yes.
think he could appear in a season of The Traitors in the future?
I mean, I doubt it at this point, considering he's probably making a lot of money.
Yeah, quite well known.
He's won Emmys. I don't see him unless the Traders goes another 10 years and he hits a rough patch. But um, no, I mean, he went on Survivor and by all accounts basically gave the game away at the end.
Yeah, I
You
didn't
know.
know that. Like, I know him from White Lotus, but I'm not. There's a new season that I've not seen, but
Hmm.
I didn't know he was. I didn't know he was a survivor. I had to look it
Oh yeah,
up, and I was like, oh,
he was on David versus Goliath and came in. Well, he was in the top three, and it looked like he was going to win, but then he started. They didn't show it so much on the show, but apparently he said some things like, "Yeah, you should really give it to this guy." Which, if he could go back in time, he'd probably change his mind because that guy pretended to be a social worker type, but
Mm.
he was actually a defense attorney.
Oh,
who then immediately became a prosecutor, who then ran for state representative, I think, as a Republican, very conservative Republican.
okay.
And like one of the bills that he put forward to pass struck down prohibitions against marrying your cousin. Uh,
Yay.
when it became public, I didn't know that it said that. It was a mistype, and I'm like, I've worked on laws. That was not a mistype. Um, and also, he, like I said, he is very conservative. Most Survivor fans and players are not. So his name is not held
Muddied.
high in the Survivor community by
Okay.
many.
Okay. Well, there we go. I learned something new about Survivor.
Yes. Yes.
David, you have another question.
Yes. So this actually leads directly into my conclusions. So Giovanni, who is a repeat questioner, said, "Is Ivar the worst casting for the Traitors?" And I will say no. Now, if you had asked me this two episodes ago, I might have said yes, because at the time we thought all he did was get tea. But now we have determined
Now he's spelling tea.
he is Columbo.
I mean, I don't know if I'd go that far, but sure.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
But I think so. Now I'm going to move into some of my final thoughts here. I think the worst casting ever, not Kate, not
Dolores?
even Quentin, Dolores. You mentioned Quentin. It's hard to be worse than Quentin. But for now, I'm going to say Dolores, because at first I thought she was the biggest waste in the game. And that's saying something, because you've got people like Quentin. But it's worse than that. When she announced how she would vote, that told Danielle and Britney what to do.
Yeah.
She didn't even realize she was doing this.
Yeah.
And then Danielle and Britney did the same thing players in the original season of US Survivor did. Because there was a guy, so there was a core alliance on one tribe. And when the merge came together, that core alliance stayed together. But there was another guy, Dr. Sean. He said, I don't believe in alliances. So I'm going to vote alphabetically by first name. That's the only fair way to do it. Okay? But he announced this. He told everyone.
Mm.
So the Solid Alliance was like, cool, we always know who he's voting for. As it happened, the alphabetical had mostly people on the other side first. So he would get up there, cast a vote, and be like, well, I'm sure this vote doesn't matter, but I'm doing it the only fair way. And then all the others on that alliance would pile on, knowing that that was the way the vote was going. It's the same thing Danielle and Britney did here. As soon as they found out which way Dolores was voting, they threw their votes, and they were guaranteed to at least tie. This makes Dolores worse than a waste. She's not even wasting her vote. She's playing so poorly that she's impacting the outcome without even realizing it.
Yeah. Was Dr. Will on Survivor or
No,
Big
he was
Brother?
on Big Brother.
Okay.
With Dr. Sean.
Do all American reality shows need a doctor?
Well, they have a doctor on standby, but no, not all.
Okay.
And they don't all, there's a guy on the current season of Survivor, just aired, first episode. His name's Cedric. He's a doctor. He does not go by Dr. Cedric. So
Dr. Cedric's sounds cool, though.
and Sean, I say Dr. Sean because there have been a number of Seans, at least one, maybe more Sean since then, and people just know it as the Sean thing. To tell you what kind of guy this was, he spent a bunch of time to make his own fishing pole. Put together he had a funny name for it too. It was I can't remember. It was the something 2000, like the Fishomatic 2000 or something like that. I don't remember, but yeah. So the other thing about Dolores, I have seen people mention that in interviews or podcasts or whatever, other players have said Dolores was just tired of the game, couldn't be bothered to think about it. people would come up to talk to her and she'd just send them away because she didn't want to deal with it. This is a problem with casting these Bravo people who have no idea what they're getting into. We
Hmm.
saw it earlier. Ian had no clue what was going to happen in the game. But, well, one, I think if she had stuck around, she'd have been 10 times better than Dolores, if only for her personality. And I think she would have learned what was going on. Uh, but yeah, I don't think there's anything at all interesting about Dolores. Not game wise, not character wise. To me, she is a zero. And yet she may end up deciding the outcome of the game.
Yeah. David, you always hold back. So I
I
never know
know.
what you're
I
thinking.
know. Sorry. It's a character flaw. I'm just so reserved.
Yeah. I mean, to play devil's advocate, what I might say is I also don't really have any interest in Dolores. Like, find, I don't want to now know anything else about
Mm-hmm.
her. Like, I still don't really feel like I know anything about her. What I might argue is it's having like a rogue player tests the others. Like at least it creates a bit of like drama and conflict. Like now the traitors have to figure out how they're going to deal with that rogue voter and
But
how are the
she's not
faithful
even a
going to deal with it.
I mean, she's not even a rogue player. She's just a mannequin that they move around.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll say no more. Um, any other final thoughts, David, that you want to be really reserved and held back about?
Um, I mean, I want to say next episode, there's a lot to cover.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
They have to cover the outcome of this banishment, which could be a tie, forcing a random draw.
Yeah.
We have to find out the seer. We have the
Mm.
seer meet the target. We have to deal with repercussions from that. We have to have the final roundtable. We have to have the fire pit of truth.
We need the mission in
Oh,
between it all.
oh yeah, I forgot about the mission. Yeah, there's a lot that's going to happen in there. Um, so yeah. As far as um, other final thoughts. I think that Danielle, like Carolyn before her, overestimated how emotional Dylan would be in his decision making.
Mm.
I mean, we saw Carolyn pull him aside and lay this heavy emotional thing on him. And then he voted Carolyn out. Now, Danielle doesn't know that's what Carolyn was doing. So she didn't know it wasn't going to work when she tried to do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So props to Dylan for actually carrying through and, yes, keeping his emotions separate. Um, you know, Other than that, I really just have some predictions. So I don't know if you
Okay.
have final thoughts before predictions.
I get my final thoughts are simply that I really enjoyed the episode, as I've said, and also I was left with the same thought that I wouldn't be surprised if the finale is like an hour and 10, maybe an hour and 15 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps. It's in the age of streaming, episode length doesn't matter so much. They can be a bit
Right.
flexible because it's not on a broadcast schedule. So if they want to make it an extra 15 minutes long, they can do it or shorter. So yeah, I thought the same thing. There's a lot to pack in to this finale. And again, it makes me wonder why, like the finale is exciting enough anyway. I don't think they need to keep the seer until this point in the season. Like use it mid-season when there's always like a dip in ratings. Like I don't think you need it at the end to make it more
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
So and actually it has the potential to kind of ruin the game a little bit at the end when there's so few people left.
Yes, it does.
So those are my final thoughts.
Okay.
As for predictions, I predict. I think you're probably going to say the same thing. I don't think even though that the editing's kind of making it look like Britney's losing her mind, I don't think she's going to turn on Danielle and she doesn't need to.
Yeah.
So I think she'll vote Ivar and Ivar goes.
Well, then it's a tie.
Oh, what? Wait, no, I'm getting confused. I've got this wrong. Right, so
Yeah.
Dylan has voted for Danielle. Of course, of course. If Brittany votes for
Yeah.
right. Well, in that case, in that case, anything could happen. I think that
Right.
Brittany will vote for Ivar, and I think that whatever happens with the winner, the loser being banished by
Mhm.
chance, I think Dylan will be murdered next because
There's no more murder. They're at 5 after that.
right. I just think listeners, I do understand what the traitors is. I I I know I know I'm getting everything wrong right now.
No, he was trying to lie to me, and I just messed it up.
I actually wasn't.
I,
I've written. I can screenshot it. I've written predictions. Ivar goes murder. Dylan. Um, no, I just didn't count the numbers and think that there wasn't going to be a murder. Okay.
yeah.
Um, my prediction is that Brittany and Danielle are going to win.
So so yeah, the edit certainly made it seem like Britney had seen something, that would make her change her vote. The look on Britney's face as she's about to flip her slate makes it look like that. I cannot see her changing her vote in a tiebreaker.
Yeah.
If it was the original vote and it was clear everyone was voting Danielle, then I could see her doing it and being like, my vote didn't matter. I needed to save myself.
Yeah.
In this case, her vote most clearly does matter. Even if Dolores changed it, it doesn't hurt her to stick with her vote.
Yeah.
No
Uh,
one's going to say, aha, you must be another traitor because you kept the same vote that you already kept.
yeah.
So she is not going to change. There's no way we have built up to this point and she changes it like that. I just do not see it. So yes, it'll be a tiebreaker.
I'm going to
Um,
play devil's advocate again
okay.
and say maybe, maybe there's like a 2% chance that Brittany is having a meltdown. She's freaking out. The pressure's on. Oh my God, it's been a tie. We've been at this round table for 4 hours. And maybe she is so convinced for a moment that Dylan's going to vote for Danielle, and so is Gabby. And now she thinks that Dolores is going to do it. And she has this moment where she thinks, wait a minute, if I stick with Ivar and Danielle goes and says she's a traitor, everyone's going to look at me and go, why didn't you obviously see that Danielle was a traitor? You're a traitor. Like maybe she has a moment where she freaks out and goes, this
I
is
mean,
going to
there's
look
a
bad for
chance. Yeah.
me.
I mean, it's hard to believe because you and I have never been wrong in our predictions before.
Never. So,
So, but there is that small, small chance.
yeah. So,
I mean,
I.
at least you're better than my podcast partner on Survivor, whose winner pick was the first one to get voted out this week.
Oh, that's what a shame. Yeah. If I'm putting money on it, she's going to stick with Ivar, and then who knows? Who
Right.
knows
And
which one of
so
them it's going to be?
then, yeah. So, okay. So let's presume that it's between one of those two that goes. Um, just based on the edit, I think Ivar will be the one who loses the coin flipped.
Okay.
Um, I think, therefore, it will be Dylan and Gabby versus Danielle and Brittany and Dolores, cluelessly going along. And then they just vote out Gabby and Dylan in quick succession. And the three of them go to the end. And then Danielle and Brittany share at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
The
Dolores
problem.
is left standing there cluelessly, not knowing what happened.
Yeah. If. Yeah, the problem. I mean, first of all, the seer could mess up. Who knows how that's going to play out, and it could change everything, as Alan
Yeah,
keeps
I
reminding
feel like
us.
the seer is not going to have as big an impact. I feel like once you get to, if you get to 3 versus 2, I don't think the seer has an impact because the only thing that could change it is if like Dolores gets the seer
That's
and
what I'm
picks
thinking.
Danielle.
Or
I
Brittany.
I can't imagine Dolores won that challenge. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, she did. She was one of the people with the most. She was one of the three people with the most at the end of the second
Yeah, but I
part. So you
feel
never
like
know.
most of the money was made by coins. Maybe
Yeah,
I'm
in the
wrong.
in the last one. Yeah.
Um, I just if Dylan gets it, it doesn't matter what he says.
Hmm.
It truly doesn't. If Gabby gets it, it doesn't matter what she says. I do not see Dolores changing for anything. Her mind is a straight line, and it is Danielle is my friend.
Yeah. I do wonder if I mean, I think Dylan's kind of screwed now in a way, I think. If if Ivar goes
If
and
Ivar
Danielle
goes,
stays,
I mean, I would just say if Ivar goes, the Traitors win. If Danielle goes, then I think Dylan. Then it could matter who gets the
Brittany could win
seer.
alone.
I don't think Britney wins alone. I think that Dylan talked about only knowing, um, only knowing that um, Ivar is a true faithful.
Hmm.
So I could see like a Dylan Ivar win or something like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Dylan also has this problem. I know we've talked about this a lot. Dylan has this problem that he, well, he's told us that what he wants to do is if he becomes the seer, which may well happen, he wants to find a true faithful. And I'm trying to think, if Ivor's no longer around, which of the four women left would he pick as his bet for the faithful? I don't think it's going to be Gabby because he's been so suspicious of her. It's not going to be Danielle. So it's either going to be Dolores or Brittany. What if he picks Brittany and then finds out she's a traitor? Does that then screw over both of them when they're going to have to lie? I wonder if
I think
that's
he goes with Gabby at that point. If Danielle actually gets banished
hmm,
and reveals herself as a traitor, I think he checks Brittany at that point or Ivar. Well, wait, you said if Ivar's gone.
yeah. If Ivor goes,
Again, I don't think it matters. If Ivar goes, it's 3 against 2, and it doesn't matter.
yeah. I would say that
Which also may be how we get through so many things quickly in the finale.
yeah. I I am happy that I am quite glad that I feel like it's a very op I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how it's
Mm-hmm.
going to play out, which is fine. Like I think that's great fun going into the finale. Unlike a previous season I can think of, a relatively recent season where going into the finale, I felt like it was kind of clear what was going to
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
So I like that it's all up in the air actually.
So I
That's
think
why I don't
so.
mind the cliffhanger.
Yeah, in the end, we're both predicting a Danielle Brittany co-win.
Or at least a traitor
No,
win.
no, come on, say it. Make a
Oh,
prediction.
right. No, why? Is something happening? Because you want me to be wrong. Yeah, my prediction, well, I wrote it down. My prediction is Brittany and Danielle are going to win.
Yeah, we have the same prediction. Okay.
Okay, now we just a few things left. We are still in the midst of our lying game, the Trader Traitor, before we reveal what we may have lied about or are yet to lie about. David, where can we find you on social media or online or wherever?
Well, everywhere. I'm everywhere. Of course, I will be right back here next week with you for the Traders U.S. finale and reunion. Two more podcasts, people. And I am also back podcasting about U.S. Survivor on the Rob Has a Podcast Network. The name of the show is Why Blank Lost. We'll be recording our first episode a few hours. Well, we did a preview episode, but our first actual episode a few hours after we're done here. And it should be posted by the time anyone hears me saying this. I've also did an article for the newsletter called The Confessional. That's also an RHAP newsletter. You can find that at realitytvnewsletters.com. It's the most recent one. It talks about, you may have heard me talk about my rules for winning Survivor and stuff. It talks about some of the background of that and some recent things that I've done there. I also post these days at least 4, sometimes more reality TV short videos every day on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, where I'm at David Bloomberg TV. Right now, they're a mix of the Traitors US Survivor, Australian Survivor, Deal or No Deal Island, and the new show Extracted. There's a lot going on in reality TV. And then finally, you can find all my various accounts at linktree/David Bloomberg with a dot before the EE in the URL, or you can find me directly on Blue Sky as at David Bloomberg. I encourage anyone to come to Blue Sky. Just went over 4,300 followers right after this episode aired while I was live posting it. And, when I was live posting Survivor, I gained about 80 followers. I didn't gain that many for the Traitors. So it could be because the Traitors has been going on for a while. I've already gained most of the people as followers there. But so need more people jumping on board there.
Yeah. And David, you've just reminded me of a couple of things that when we're back next week talking about the finale, I have a sort of question to pose to the listeners to help kind of shape maybe what happens next with the
Mm.
podcast because there's no traitors on the horizon for now. We'll have Ireland later in the year. We'll have celebrity UK traitors later in the year. Maybe a Canada season two. We don't know. Looks like New Zealand season three is not going to happen. Sorry, I said Canada season two. I think I meant season three. Um, so it would be nice for the podcast to cover something else going forward. So I'm going to ask a bit more for suggestions from the listeners. I'll specify what I mean by that a little more next time. There's also a couple of other, David, you said like there's a bunch of shows you're covering. There, Studio Lambert, who make Tracers UK and US, have
Hmm.
announced a new show called The Inheritance,
Oh,
which I'm
yes.
quite interested in. I don't think that's coming until later in the year, maybe even next year. It's not a
Is that the
million miles away
one?
from the
Is that the
Traitors.
one hosted by David Tennant?
No, that's Genius Game. It's also
Oh,
on the
that's right.
horizon, but we don't know when.
Yeah, they advertised it. They said it's coming, and then they went dark.
Yeah, so we've got Genius Game at some point. It's going to be ITV, I think, here in the UK. The Inheritance, I wonder, I think maybe it's Netflix. That's a guess, I'm not
I
sure. And
feel
it's,
like it might be.
yeah, set in a big castle.
Hmm.
The owner has left an inheritance to people, secrets, betraying, backstabbing, missions, all that stuff. And there's also I've seen a new trailer for a Netflix show. I think it's called The Secret Millionaire, and it's
Oh, yeah.
very, very similar vibes. Again, it's a bunch of people arrive at a big giant hotel slash castle, and immediately one of them wins $1 million. They arrive in the room and there's $1 million in a box or something.
Hmm.
And they have to spend the rest of the game acting like they are not the winner of the $1 million, carry out missions. There's a well-known actor who's sort of playing the host, like the Allan role, but very much inhabiting, like pretending he lives in the castle, the hotel, and he's giving them missions to go out and do it. It looks like it's really big budget, very much like Fortune Hotel, which was a
On the
show
other
here in
hand,
the
it's
UK.
Netflix, so if it,
Yeah, Netflix budget. It's produced by a company called Banerjee, who did the Survivor UK. So which we pretty sure is done and is not coming back. So maybe we'll talk about those in the podcast.
yeah,
Lots of opportunities. I'm
yeah,
definitely going to watch them. So anyway, lots coming up. And as for the podcast, you please, wherever you're listening, it's amazing if you can subscribe, follow, leave nice reviews, star ratings. You can follow us on social media on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at the Tradar Podcast. Over 1,000 subscribers now on YouTube, which was a goal that I thought maybe I'd get to at the end of this season, and it's already happened. Thank you so much to everybody who's subscribing there. You can leave comments again. YouTube, the episodes I have so many comments now of people getting into discussions. I try and respond as much as I can. It's a lot to keep up with, but listeners, get involved, see what other people are thinking, see what David and I missed, some
hmm
obvious thing that we completely forgot about. And you can
that would
DM
never
me.
happen.
You can also leave comments on Spotify. You can email me at thetradarpodcast@gmail.com, and you can leave a voice message at memo.fm/thetradarpodcast. And you can hear yourself on the podcast asking a question, raising an observation, whatever you like. Uh, Again, like last week, we've had some really kind donations on the coffee.com page. So we've had donations from Nate, Steph, and what I now know is Zircon Chick. So last week, Zircon Chick also donated. They've donated again because last time I was saying, oh, I don't know how you put, is it zircon chic? What does this mean? What's going on? They've like very kindly sent another donation with a message saying, thanks for the shout out on the pod, Matthew. I had to buy you another coffee to let you know it's zircon chick with a little chick emoji. My social media handle given to me by a
Okay, with
coworker.
your pronunciation, I still don't know what it is.
Oh,
Check or
a baby
chick?
chicken.
Chicken. Okay, okay,
A chick. CHI, even though it's not
okay,
spelled like that. Yeah, like a baby chicken, a little fluffy
okay.
yellow thing. My social media handle given to me by a coworker years ago, um, because I date the age of rocks using the mineral zircon for a living. In brackets, not my lie, Liz. So, thank you very much, Liz, for sending another donation, and to Steph and Nate. That's very kind of you. If anyone listening wants to put in a wee donation for the podcast, you could visit ko-fi.com/ Matthew Keeley. Almost forgot what the address was there. And the
Yeah,
link, all those links are
your
in the episode
name. It's hard to
description.
remember your name at the end
I
there.
was
Yeah,
like, is it slash the Trader podcast? Is it
yeah,
slash me? Um, I set it up before the podcast existed. That's why it's
yeah.
my name. And I don't think I can change it now.
You
Uh,
thought people would just give you a coffee for the heck of it,
well,
before, yeah.
I always say at the start of the podcast, I'm Matthew, I'm a writer.
Oh,
So
that's
because
right.
I'm a writer, I I have not I'll talk about this next time on the podcast. I
Yeah.
have novels, I have a poetry collection coming out. So sometimes people would send donations and in exchange for
Mhm.
like a poetry pamphlet or a magazine that I've been published in and things like that. More to come on that next week. So, David, we've been playing the Tradar Traitor. I I'm gonna be honest actually and tell you I helped you because I lied twice in this episode.
Mm.
So I'm giving you more than I should have. I felt like one of them wasn't good enough and I wanted to play with integrity and fairness as all good players do.
That's unlike you.
So I thought, no, that one wasn't enough. I'm gonna
Okay.
do another one. So I'm not don't know when that will happen. It could have been in the first 5 minutes. It could have been just right now. David, did you lie to me?
I did.
Okay. I keep meaning to come up with some method. I just sort of randomly go like, "Hey, I'll start. You start." I need a fun game mechanic to decide which one of us. So next season of
I
the
mean,
podcast.
I'll go ahead and start because I only
Okay.
have one guess.
Okay.
All right. I sort of debated it with you in the moment and said, well, it's really weird. But you said that Britney also started calling Ivor Iva.
Oh, if I said that, that was not it was a mistake. I meant Danielle.
Well, we talked about Danielle doing it,
Oh,
but
and
then
Dolores. Dolores was doing it.
you said
That's what I meant.
Britney also. Oh,
Okay.
okay.
That's not. I'm going to give you this one. That's not my
Well,
lie. I
damn
just
it.
said the wrong
That was
name.
it. I knew you were wrong about that. So I didn't
I was
focus
thinking
on
of
anything
Dolores.
else.
I just said
Because
the
you
wrong
said
name. I'm
because you
sorry. That
said
wasn't my
Brittany,
lie.
because that's why I said, also that it's weird that she spelled it with an E when if she had been saying Iva.
Okay, now I'm putting that together.
Yeah.
Idiot, and I get players' names wrong. Even though I've been watching them for 11 episodes, I still write the wrong name down sometimes. I wasn't my lie. So I'm gonna give you another guess because that was just me
Well,
being an
I
idiot.
wasn't paying attention after that. I was sure that I had it. I stopped paying attention. You
I'm
threw
sorry.
me off my game.
Okay, I'll guess yours to get and then I'll give you another guess.
Okay. Well, you
I'm
have to replay everything you said on the podcast so
okay.
far. And then,
Um I'll just repeat the last 2 hours very
yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
I'll do double speed on myself. Uh, I have three guesses for you, and I don't think any of them are your lie. One is that Dr. Sean is not a real person. No, I do know what I think your lie is. I'll come back to it. Dr. Sean, I don't think that's a lie though. Maybe you lied about the preview again, because I didn't see a preview. Maybe they didn't. Maybe there wasn't a preview. Maybe they showed something really significant. You lied about it. I don't know. Maybe there was no helicopter. Or you mentioned you have written something for the blog called The Confessional, and I thought maybe that's not what it's called, and you didn't write, you wrote on something else and you lied about what you were writing about. But I'm going to go for something else. I didn't write it down, but I remember it. You were talking about Boston Rob, and you said his wife won £1 million as well on Survivor. And I know that they met on Survivor. I'm sure you told me this, and then I saw it online later. I'm gonna guess that's your lie, and that she didn't win a season and she didn't win $1 million.
You are wrong.
Oh no. Were
Yes, it
any
was the
of
season. It was the season that they got together on. People,
ah
they made it to the end together, and people hated him so much that they gave it to her, which
okay.
ended up still being him at the end because they got married. So
Okay. Man, I really thought I had it. Um, were either any of the other things I mentioned a
no,
lie?
nothing.
No. Okay.
So I went back. I mentioned the Dylan talking about it exploded in my face and that Allan moment, and I said that was easily my most liked post of the
Uh,
night. Um,
you didn't
no,
post about it, or
oh, I
it
did,
wasn't. Oh,
but
it
that
wasn't
was
your
not
most
my most
liked.
liked. The most liked was calling production bastards for ending on a cliffhanger. That was easily more than double anything else. Um, that surprised me. I didn't think that was going to be the one. The Dylan and Allan one was in third.
Okay.
It was making a run as, I'm sitting here now, it could be making a run for second still as people catch up. But two other very popular ones were um, the one with Allan saying Tom was actually faithful, and then my post about Danielle and Britney using Dolores the same way as
Hmm.
in Survivor they used Dr. Sean, uh,
Who is a
which
real
I'm
person,
happy.
apparently.
Yes, who is a real person.
So you say.
Uh, so yes, yes.
Maybe next week you're going to talk about him again, and then you'll say, "That was my line. I planted it last week."
So
Uh, okay.
now I have very little idea because I stopped paying attention. Um, I mean,
I
there
was
were a
gonna, I
couple
was gonna help you
things.
there, but I don't want to help you.
Help me, help me, help
One
me.
was a little lie, one was a flat out lie.
One was a little lie, one was a flat out lie. That doesn't help. Um,
I'm saying no more.
one was a little. I feel like you said something about a previous season, and I couldn't remember whether or not it was true. And so that would be what the guess would be, but that boy is that vague. Um, there was that it. Something you said about a previous season.
That was not my
Okay,
lie.
good. Therefore, I don't have to waste any more brain power thinking about it when it turns out not to be a lie.
Okay, I both of my lies were improvised on the spot because I hadn't prepared anything. So when there was a listener question about Mike White of White Lotus fame, and
Mhm.
I
Oh, that was the one. Damn it. I did think of that because you said I haven't watched season 3 yet.
well, you're half right. That's true. I haven't watched season
Oh,
three.
okay.
My lie is that I haven't seen any of White Lotus,
Oh,
and I haven't
okay.
seen one or two either. And I
Well,
was
at
kind
least
of
that is.
acting like, oh yeah, I've seen White Lotus. I know who Mike White is. I have no idea who he is, and I've never seen White Lotus. Uh, so that was my lie, but I thought that was a little bit of an implication, and I wasn't going to get away with that. My second lie was about this show, Secret Millionaire, which is, I didn't invent. That's a real show coming to Netflix, but I lied about the production company. I said it was produced by a company called Banijay, who produced Survivor UK. That was a lie. It's produced by a company, or co-produced by a company called Wheelhouse,
Hmm.
who I think it's the like Jimmy Kimmel's production company,
No.
strangely. So,
Well, I mean, when you talked about it, even though I had stopped listening for a lie, I was still sort of listening. And I was like, no, I know that's a real company, or I know that's a real show. I know that's a real production company. I don't know the bit about the host, so that could be wrong. I don't remember if it was that show or the other one where you said the host was some well-known actor,
oh, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I never would have gotten that it was a different production company.
Yeah. So I snuck it in at the last minute because I was
Hmm.
panicking.
Yeah.
Uh, there we go. We've fooled each other again, and maybe we'll see. Next week, I feel like it's finale. I need to bring a really enormous lie, like something outrageous. I'll just lie for like half an hour on the podcast. I won't watch the episode and then I'll lie and pretend that I watched it. David, thank you again for joining me. As always, I'll give a shout out to Mark, our editor, who's editing this episode for me. Thank you very much, Mark. Anyone who's like listening and needs some sort of like media production, get in touch with Mark. Why not? Thank you very much, David. We'll be back next week. Very excited about the
Yes,
finale. And listeners, until next time, keep us on your tradar.
and stay traitorous.